In 2016, robots and artificial intelligence were not hot topics on the campaign trail, but one candidate says that was an oversight. Andrew Yang is a former tech executive and author of The War on Normal People: The Truth About America's Disappearing Jobs and Why Universal Basic Income is Our Future. Now he's running for president in 2020 and says he has a plan to give every American $1,000 a month to avoid an economic apocalypse when robots take over. Andrew, let me start with the notion that you are seeking the Democratic nomination in 2020, and your sort of main platform is this idea that the robots are coming and that something needs to be done about that. Can you explain that?
Yes. So we're going through the greatest series of technological and economic shifts in our history. And when someone says the robots are coming, that's somewhat misleading, because that suggests that a robot's literally going to walk into the room and say, "I'm here to do your job." That's not going to happen to virtually any of us. But what is going to happen is that cars and trucks are going to start driving themselves, which is going to displace truck drivers. Truck driving is the most common job in 29 states. There are 3.5 million truck drivers, 94% male, average age 49. And that's an obvious change that's coming down the pike 5 to 10 years from now. Retail employs the second most Americans of any sector, and 30% of malls are going to close in the next 4 years minimum. So we're going through an historic set of changes that are going to displace millions and millions of American workers. And we need to think much, much bigger about how we're going to adjust and adapt to this new sort of economy.
Let's talk about this notion of self-driving cars. Is this basically sort of phase one of the takeover of robots?
Well, again, it's probably phase 2 or 3, but the self-driving cars, retail, cashiers, call center workers, those are the obvious innovations. There are all of these inobvious innovations that are working their way through our economy that are going to displace people, bookkeepers, insurance agents. A friend of mine's just raised tens of millions of dollars to automate basic legal work. So even people who graduate from law school, get all this expensive education, they're going to find that their opportunities are shrinking over the next several years. So this doesn't go necessarily in clean phases, but I will say that we're about to hit a different phase with the advent of artificial intelligence, because AI right now hasn't done that much that's really commercially valuable, but that's going to change in the next several years, where AI is going to be able to do things that right now require whole departments of people to do.
So are we at this inflection point right now when it comes to AI, in your view, in terms of the development of AI and the intersection then with people's livelihoods in these various sectors?
Yes, that's exactly right. We are at an inflection point where AI is about to reach a point that will displace many, many millions of workers. As one example, there are 2.5 million call center workers still in the US right now. And the day that AI becomes better than the average call center worker, that's not going to jeopardize 1 or 5,000 workers. That's going to take hundreds of thousands of workers and to make the value of their current role much, much lower very, very quickly.
So what is your position then, as part of your platform, and you see what is already on the horizon regarding robots and AI, where do humans fit into the equation?
Well, the first thing we have to do is wake up to the fact that this is happening. And I'm glad to say that now 70% of Americans agree that technology is going to displace many more jobs than it's going to create over the next 10 years. So right now, the way we're rising to this challenge is by ignoring it or pretending it's not happening. So the first step is to say, look, this is the greatest technological and economic shift we've ever experienced, and we need to go much, much bigger in terms of how to address it. Then the second thing is, well, what are real solutions? And what I propose is the freedom dividend, where every American gets paid $1,000 a month, free and clear by the government, so they can start making transitions and plan for the future. Perhaps go back to school, perhaps start a new business, perhaps relocate for a new opportunity. And the freedom dividend would be paid for by a new value-added tax that falls disproportionately on the companies that are benefiting most from automation. That's the kind of big solution that we need to help ease people through what will be the greatest transition. Bain calls it the great transformation. I call it the great displacement. But first, we need to acknowledge that it's happening, and then second, we need to offer real solutions. So we need to think much bigger about helping people make the transition from where they are now to where they will be in a few short years.
All right. Andrew Yang, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Elaine.
Thanks for watching our CBSN original, Replacing Humans, Robots Among Us. You can read much more about the future of robots and artificial intelligence at cbsnews.com. And we have much more ahead here on CBSN. Coming up after a break, we'll get you caught up on the day's news.